remember my parents talking about the 1913 flood and how bad it was, and another flood would come along, they'd say, oh, this is nothing like the 1913 flood. This is a picture of my Uncle Guy Tussing, and his daughter died during the flood. She could not be buried for 6 weeks because his cemetery was flooded. And I remember, people telling me how they kept her at home for all those 6 weeks. I know my parents always talked about it. They always say, you see that mark over there? That's where the flood was, So that's sort of how I know. And this picture came to me from family. Passed down. And this guy in the picture was a great uncle of mine, and his sister was my grandma, great-grandma. So that kind of brings it all together. The slides that I have are of 1959, and that was a bad time. I believe there was a flood in January and also February. And the pictures that my husband took, some of them are the big chunks of ice that came down the river to Broad Avenue, where there's a bridge down there, and those things would bump into the bridge and make horrible noises. They were as big as a car, the chunks of ice. So there was a car that was swept off of a road. I remember at one point my mother said, after the flood, of course, and I was born, and my older brother, he passed away when he was 19, but he would say, because they were going to change the river. And the joke in the family was, well, if they change the river, it won't know where to go. And that was his sight on that when he was just a young person. So they did, way back in the 40s, they were talking about doing something. Well, I had a friend, that not this flood, but the one in, 2008? There was a flood, and she lost her home. Yeah, so, yeah, I, felt her pain and helped her clean up some of her clothing so she could keep it. So that was not easy to do. She lost a lot. She had to sell it. Well, I'm not sure who bought it, but she had to move. There was nothing left. So we had a flood, it was about 6 months ago, and we helped our friend that lives way out south. So we went down, my husband and I went down to where you get sandbags. There was no one there to help fill the sandbags. So we filled the sandbags ourselves and loaded them into our car and took them out to her house. So, yeah, we were affected, but, we were able to help her. I have a friend right now that lives way out south on South Main Street, and every time it rains, she has a slab floor. She has to get out the sandbags even now. She lives right on South Main, right out at the edge of town. But she keeps her sandbags in her garage, so she's ready. Because a couple of times she was not, and she got a mess. It devastated her. She just had experienced back surgery, and the flood came. And so she was in a wheelchair. I don't know what group got her from the rest home that she was rehabbing in, but brought her to her house, and they would bring out boxes. Do you want what's in this box? Do you want to save this? Do you want to save that? Well, how? You just had back surgery and you're not thinking clearly. But they were very good to her because they brought out everything. And when they'd bring out something that I could take and, clean up for her, I would take it home and clean it up. That was very, very stressful for her. My husband has an interesting story. His best friend was in the Army, and his best friend's mom lived down just from the river, just from the bridge a little bit. in the apartments that used to be like above Miller's, you know. And this guy was in the Army. He was stationed in Cleveland, and he was walking by a center where they had a TV. That was before everybody had their own TVs. And they said, "Hey, Gary, your town's flooding." And he said, "Oh my gosh, that's where my mom lives." Well, she didn't live that far from the river. But John knew that she was by herself, and he knew that Gary's mom liked to smoke. So he went to the store and bought milk, bread, and cigarettes, and he waded in the water down around Miller's luncheonette and went up the stairs to help Gary's mother, which was, you know, quite a thing, because Gary called home right away. "Are you okay, Mom?" "Oh yeah, John was here and he brought me stuff." So that was kind of neat. And I think unless you really lived through it, and if they don't interview people that, you know, just recently went through it, they're making a big mistake, because those people are the ones that are impacted. We live out north. We are not impacted by it at all. But I think they need to talk to those people and see what their feelings are.